Hey everyone, did you know that over 90% of you watching right now haven't hit that subscribe button? If you enjoy our content, take a second to subscribe. It's free and it really helps us keep bringing you great stories every day. She stood in the doorway with her suitcase already zipped and her hand clenched around the handle. Her eyes were dry, her posture was firm, and her voice was steady when she said it. He makes me feel alive again. Then she was gone. No screaming, no pleading, no apology. Just those words like a knife sliding between my ribs. And the soft click of the door as it closed behind her was somehow worse than a slam, like a verdict being read in a courtroom where I didn't even know I was on trial. My name is Daniel Everett. I'm 42, a software architect, quiet, methodical. I've never been one for chaos. I solve problems for a living. I observe patterns. I understand systems. But I'll be honest, I never saw this one coming. Lena and I had been married for 15 years. She was my best friend once. We'd built a life, a home, routines that made the days feel safe. That kind of safety is something you don't realize you value until it's ripped away. I wasn't blind to the fact that things had cooled between us over the last year. We were in a rut, sure, but I thought it was the kind of rut that time and patience could fix. Apparently not. After she left, I didn't fall apart. I didn't punch walls or drown myself in whiskey or go on some desperate campaign to win her back. That's not who I am. I simply sat in the silence she left behind and started thinking. The name she didn't say but didn't need to was already in my mind. Colin Mercer, a mid-40s executive at a marketing firm. I'd met him at one of Lena's friends' dinner parties a few months ago. He was charming in the loud, overconfident way that draws attention. I didn't like him. Something about his smile was too polished, too rehearsed. But Lena laughed at all his jokes that night. I remember that clearly now. The thing is, I wasn't interested in understanding why she left. I wasn't even interested in getting her back. I just wanted the truth, the full picture. Because I had a feeling this wasn't just about feeling alive again. That line, it wasn't Lena's. It sounded borrowed, like a cliche she'd heard in a movie and decided to try on for herself. So I started where I always do, quietly. I checked our shared phone plan. She hadn't thought to cover her tracks. There were dozens of late-night calls and long conversations with a number I didn't recognize. I traced it back to a prepaid burner phone. Clever, but not clever enough. The next step was looking into Colin. LinkedIn gave me the basics. CEO of a boutique ad agency, married, one child, lived in an upscale neighborhood about 30 minutes away. Public photos showed a well-curated image of success. Sailing trips, business events, charity galas. But I noticed something interesting. His wife, Miranda Mercer, appeared in almost none of them, except for one photo from last year, a fundraiser. Her eyes told a different story than his grin. I thought about that for a while. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Lena. I wasn't going to storm into Colin's life and make a scene. Instead, I was going to pay Miranda a visit. Not unannounced, of course, that wouldn't have been polite. I wrote her a short email. Polite, measured. I told her that I had reason to believe our spouses were involved in something inappropriate, and that I thought we might benefit from a conversation. I didn't expect a response. She replied in less than an hour. We met at a quiet cafe outside of town. She arrived dressed in crisp neutrals, sunglasses hiding her expression. When she took them off, I saw someone who wasn't surprised to be sitting there. She looked tired, but sharp. I figured it was only a matter of time before someone reached out, she said as she stirred her tea. So you knew? I asked. I suspected, and I've seen enough small clues to stop pretending otherwise. We talked for an hour, maybe more. She confirmed what I already suspected. Colin had a pattern. A charming predator with a knack for picking women who were just vulnerable enough to be tempted. Miranda had stayed silent for the sake of their teenage son, for her image, for the sake of the illusion. But now that I had come forward, something shifted. Why now? She asked me finally. What do you want from this? I thought about that. I didn't want to ruin lives, but I also didn't want to be lied to anymore. I wanted control, clarity, a plan. I want to know what they're planning, I said. And I want to make sure we're not the ones left holding the damage. She smiled then. Not a warm smile, but the kind two people share when they both understand that something has shifted. An alliance had formed. We exchanged numbers. She agreed to keep me updated if she noticed anything new. In return, I promised to do the same. Meanwhile, I started watching Lena more closely. She hadn't moved far, just into a small downtown apartment that I was still paying for, unknowingly. Our divorce hadn't been filed yet. No talk of assets or custody or settlements, just nothing. Almost like she was waiting for something or someone. I remembered something Miranda had said at the cafe. Colin doesn't just charm women, he uses them, sometimes for access, sometimes for leverage. That's when I started wondering, was Lena just another chess piece in Colin's game? I started looking deeper. Not into Lena, into Colin. Miranda helped. She sent me a file one night, a document she'd compiled over the years, emails, credit card records, a pattern of suspicious meetings and strange business expenses. Names of other women. One in particular stood out. An assistant who had accused him of harassment and then vanished with a suspicious severance package and a non-disclosure agreement. No charges. But the timing was strange. And then something new happened. I got a call from a blocked number. A woman's voice, nervous, quick. "You don't know me," she said, "but I know your wife, and I know what Colin's doing. Be careful. They're planning something big." The line went dead before I could ask anything more. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called Miranda. "We need to meet again," I said. "I think they're planning to make a move." "What kind of move?" she asked. "I don't know yet," I said, "but I think we have to get ahead of it." This wasn't just about an affair anymore. It was about something deeper. And I had a feeling, whatever they were planning, it wasn't going to end well. But for once, I wasn't the one caught off guard. They were. And now it was my turn to move the pieces. Miranda and I met again, this time in a private room at a quiet library she frequented. She came prepared, carrying a sleek folder full of neatly labeled documents. Her expression was more alert now, like mine. Calm on the surface, but beneath it, something was shifting. I laid out everything I knew since our last meeting. The burner phone, the odd timing of Lena's departure, the anonymous call warning me to be careful. Miranda listened closely, occasionally jotting down notes in a leather-bound planner. "Do you think they're planning to take something from you?" she asked. "I don't know what exactly, but Lena hasn't filed for divorce yet. No request for assets, no conversation about splitting anything. It's like she's stalling, waiting for something to happen before she makes her move." Miranda nodded. "Colin's done this before. He once used an affair to manipulate an investor's daughter into pushing through a business acquisition. He's strategic. He doesn't do anything that doesn't benefit him." "And Lena?" I asked. "She's being used. Or maybe she thinks she's in control, but he's the one pulling the strings." I could see it now, more clearly than ever. This wasn't just a simple affair born from emotional boredom. This was something more orchestrated, calculated. I decided to do what I do best, observe quietly and prepare. I started recording everything. I installed a home security system, kept track of shared financial accounts, and traced every expense Lena made that passed through our joint resources. She hadn't cut the financial cord yet. That was telling. Then came the strange email. It came from Lena's old college friend, Sophie. We'd only met once, years ago, but her message was short and nervous. "Daniel, I don't know exactly what's going on, but I heard Lena talking about you like she's expecting something to happen soon. She said you'd be taken care of. Just be careful. Taken care of." The word stayed with me like a shadow. I replied, asked for more details, but never heard back. That same week, Miranda contacted me with an update. "I found out Colin's been working with a firm that specializes in asset acquisitions. Quiet, off-the-record stuff. Mergers, hostile takeovers. He's been circling a tech startup. And he mentioned your company by name in an email I wasn't supposed to see." My blood ran cold. I owned a significant percentage of a small, fast-growing software firm. It wasn't common knowledge outside a select group. Most people assumed I was just a senior architect. But Lena knew the truth. She knew how much my shares were worth. She knew I'd be coming into more equity with the next round of funding. And now Colin knew too. That's when everything clicked. They weren't just having an affair, they were positioning for a financial ambush. If Lena divorced me too soon, she'd have to declare her intentions, go through legal procedures. But if she waited until Colin could secure inside information from her, information about my company's structure, contracts, growth strategy, they could make a move on the business and blindside me, possibly drive the value down before a takeover. It wasn't personal to Colin. It was a strategy, a means to an end. And my marriage? Just collateral damage. I met Miranda again, this time with a plan. If they want to treat this like a game, I said, we play better. She smirked. What do you have in mind? I want to feed them. Feed them? Misinformation, carefully. We create a false narrative, one that makes them think they're winning, that I'm vulnerable, distracted, ready to walk away from the company. Miranda leaned back in her chair, impressed. You're not just the quiet type, are you? I like to keep my pieces close until it's time to move them. So we began. I told Lena over the phone that I'd been thinking about leaving the company, that I was burned out, that I might consider selling my shares. I made sure she overheard a phone call, staged with a trusted friend, where I talked about being done with the tech world and wanting to cash out before the next round. I watched as the information made its way back. 3 days later, Lena transferred a large amount of money out of our joint account into a new one under her name. Miranda's surveillance of Colin's business account showed a sudden influx of funds, money that didn't come from a client. Likely Lena's contribution. They were preparing to move. That night, I sat alone in my house, our house, and stared at the framed photo of Lena and me on the bookshelf. A smile from another lifetime. Her hand on my chest, my eyes soft, content. I felt like I was looking at strangers. I didn't hate her. I didn't even feel anger, not really. What I felt was cold disappointment. She could have walked away, honestly, but she didn't. Instead, she chose deception. I spent the next week laying the final pieces of the trap. I created a shell LLC, perfectly legal, and began whispering rumors to select contacts in my industry about an incoming acquisition. The fake news worked its way into back channels. And just like we planned, Colin made a move. He submitted a bid for controlling interest in my company. But he didn't know that his bid was being funneled through a third party I already controlled. He didn't know that the paperwork Lena had helped him compile was riddled with small, deliberate errors I'd coached Miranda into planting. And he didn't know that I'd already informed my partners, quietly, about what was going on. Colin thought he was buying a company from a distracted, broken man. He didn't know he was walking into a wall of legal resistance with every document traceable back to him, and Lena. 2 days later, I confronted Lena. We met at a public park. She looked different, conflicted, unsure. Maybe the rush of her new life was fading. You lied to me, I said calmly. Not about the affair, about everything else. Her lips trembled, but she didn't deny it. You tried to take what I built. You let him use you. She opened her mouth, maybe to justify, maybe to apologize, but I cut her off. I'm not going to ruin you, but I'm not going to save you either. Whatever happens next, you chose it. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. That night, Miranda and I met one last time. The takedown was complete. Colin's bid had imploded. His firm was under investigation for fraud due to forged documents traced to Lena's contribution. Miranda filed for divorce, with evidence. And me? I was still standing, not angry, not broken, just awake. I'd seen the truth, and the truth had set me free. But the story wasn't over yet. Because just when I thought I was done with revenge, fate handed me one final card I hadn't expected. And it was time to play it. 2 weeks passed. I thought it would feel like the end, like closure. But instead it felt like a door half closed, still swaying gently in the wind. There were no more emails from Lena, no more phone calls. She didn't even try to defend herself. It was as if she'd accepted her role in everything and quietly disappeared into the mess she helped create. Miranda's divorce was moving fast. With the evidence we'd compiled, Colin was legally and publicly compromised. He was being investigated by his board for financial misconduct and insider manipulation. The deal he tried to push through, the one he built using false documents and stolen trust, had crumbled before it even started. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was left unfinished. That final card I mentioned? It arrived one morning in the form of a letter. Not an email, a letter. From Lena. It was handwritten, several pages long. She wrote that she hadn't known what she was doing when she left, that Colin made her feel like her life had meaning again, like she mattered, like she was still someone worth admiring. She said all the things I had expected to hear in the beginning, how sorry she was, how she never meant to betray me so deeply, how she didn't realize she was being used until it was too late. She ended the letter with a sentence I read more than once. You never yelled. You never begged. That silence said more than anger ever could. She was right. I hadn't yelled, and I didn't respond to her letter either. I let the silence continue doing what it had been doing since the moment she walked out, clearing the air, settling the dust, making space for truth to breathe. I thought that would be the end of it. But then Miranda called. Colin's trying to make one last move, she said. He's desperate. He reached out to an old connection in the media. He wants to paint himself as the victim, frame this whole situation as a vendetta, say that you manipulated your wife into helping you destroy him. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. Of course he would. Colin wasn't the type to disappear quietly. He was the type to twist the story on his way down, hoping to pull someone else into the fall with him. He's already been discredited in the industry, I said. Does anyone believe him? Not professionally, she replied. But if he goes public, if he starts talking to reporters, it could still create noise, rumors. People don't care about facts when drama sells better. I nodded slowly. Then we make sure he doesn't get the final word. That's when the real ending began. I contacted an old colleague, someone I trusted, a journalist with a reputation for digging deep and staying neutral. I handed him the entire trail. Lena's messages, Colin's fake documents, the attempt to manipulate my company, the anonymous tips, and the proof of the shady acquisition effort. I didn't ask him to write a hit piece. I asked him to tell the truth. And he did. 1 week later, the article went live. It didn't name Lena directly, but it painted a full, precise picture of a corporate predator who used emotional manipulation to infiltrate private companies through illicit personal relationships. It was backed by documents, timelines, and quotes from multiple sources, including Miranda's legal team. It wasn't salacious, it was surgical. Colin tried to respond, of course, but no one was interested. His board had already removed him. His investors had backed out. His firm was bleeding clients. He was finished. And as for Lena, she left town. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that she moved in with her sister out of state. She's working a quiet job now, out of the spotlight, out of my life. I wish I could say it ended with a moment of triumph, some cinematic scene where I stand tall, victorious, the world beneath my feet. But real life isn't like that. The victory was quieter. It came in moments, like when I walked into my office and felt peace instead of panic. Like when I sat across from Miranda one last time and we smiled, two survivors on the other side of a storm. Like when I went home alone and didn't feel lonely. Miranda and I never became anything more than allies. That was never the point. We had been ships passing through the same wreckage. We helped each other find the shore. As I packed away the last remnants of my life with Lena, photos, old receipts, cards from long-forgotten anniversaries, I realized something important. I hadn't lost myself in any of this. In fact, I'd found something new, something sharper. I'd always believed in honesty, in patience, in loyalty. I still do. But now I also believe in preparedness, in never underestimating quiet people. Because we notice things, we remember, we wait. And when the time comes, we act. I closed the last box, sealed it shut, and slid it into the back of the closet. Not as a reminder, not out of bitterness, just as a record. A quiet record of how I survived betrayal without ever raising my voice, and how I turned their game into my victory without ever playing by their rules. The story was over, but I wasn't.